Jace Calder had always thought of himself as an ordinary man in extraordinary circumstances. Born on a mining colony in the asteroid belt, he'd worked his way into becoming a starship engineer. His hands smelled of lubricants, his knuckles bore the scars of wrenches slipping in zero-G, and his mind was full of schematics rather than dreams of heroism. When the warfront reached the outer colonies, Jace wasn't on the battlefield. He was in the guts of ships, welding cracked hulls and jury-rigging power conduits so soldiers could fight another day. That was his role, the man behind the curtain. It was on an abandoned refueling station orbiting the gas giant Velos that he found her. The distress beacon had been weak, barely a whisper through static. Jace's transport was alone, his crew gone, his workship stripped down for scavenging runs. He had expected corpses, maybe raiders, but instead he found a single figure slumped against the bulkhead of the docking ring. She was tall, armored in a suit unlike any military spec he knew. Jagged plasma scoring marred the plating, and her breathing was shallow, rasping beneath a cracked helmet. "Hold still," Jace muttered, kneeling beside her. He keyed the emergency seals, stripped tools from his belt, and began working as though she were just another failing machine. Wires and torn seals made sense to him, even when the machine was a wounded alien warrior. The woman stirred, golden eyes fluttering open behind the cracked visor. Her voice was weak, carrying a strange accent in Galactic Standard. "Engineer, help me." Jace nodded. He didn't ask questions. He simply worked. Middle, the warrior's secret. Over the next 3 days, Jace nursed her back from the brink. He removed the shattered plates of her armor, cleaned wounds that seemed both human and alien, and improvised a medbay inside the station's decrepit control room. She gave her name reluctantly, Serenia. She spoke little of where she came from, only that she had been ambushed, betrayed, left for dead. To Jace, she was a warrior, one of countless soldiers caught in the endless churn of galactic conflict. But she was different from the mercenaries and officers he'd repaired ships for. There was a sharpness to her, an aura of command even in weakness. One night, as Jace tightened the seal on her rebreather, she watched him with unsettling intensity. "You are careful," she said softly. "Too careful for a soldier." "I'm no soldier," Jace replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "I fix things. Ships, machines, people when I have to." Her lips curved into something between a smile and a smirk. "You fix more than that. You mend dignity. You treat even a stranger as if she matters." Jace looked away, embarrassed. Anyone would do the same. "No," Serenia said firmly. "Not anyone." The days stretched into a week. Serenia regained her strength quickly, faster than seemed natural. She sparred with shadows in the hangar bay, testing her rebuilt armor. Jace found himself drawn into her orbit, questioning why he cared so much about a stranger. Then the fleet arrived. A colossal warship dropped out of slip space, sleek, obsidian, bearing an emblem Jace had never seen. Smaller escorts swarmed, surrounding the station like predators. Jace's stomach dropped. Serenia stood tall, her armor gleaming where he had painstakingly reforged it. She rested a gauntlet hand on his shoulder. "I owe you my life," Jace called her. "It is time you knew who I am." The warship's comms lit up, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Attention outpost. You stand in the presence of Her Imperial Majesty, Serenia Keloris, sovereign of the Lithirian Dominion." Jace froze. His hands went slack, the wrench clattering to the deck. Empress? The warrior he thought he'd saved was the most powerful ruler in half the galaxy. Middle, between duty and trust. The crew of the Imperial flagship swarmed the station, bowing as they escorted Serenia aboard. Jace, stunned and out of place, was dragged with them. The Empress revealed the truth. She had been the target of an assassination attempt by rival nobles. Betrayed, left to die, her survival had to be kept secret until her loyalists could regroup. Jace's intervention had changed everything. Without him, the throne would already be claimed by usurpers. Why tell me any of this? Jace demanded when they were alone in her private chamber aboard the flagship. I'm just an engineer. I shouldn't even be here. Serena's golden eyes held his. Because you saved me when I was nothing. When I was just a bleeding woman in the dark. To you, I was not Empress, only someone who needed help. That is rare. Jace felt a weight settle in his chest. He wanted to go home, back to the comfort of tools and grease. But something in her gaze told him the galaxy would never allow that again. In the following weeks, Jace was drawn deeper into the heart of imperial intrigue. Serena leaned on him, not for engineering skills alone, but for advice, for trust, for a voice untainted by politics. She held councils of war with admirals and nobles, then sought Jace's counsel afterward. He was blunt, unrefined, honest in ways her courtiers dared not be, and she valued it more than he understood. But as their bond deepened, so did the danger. The usurpers who had tried to kill Serena learned of her survival. Armadas clashed, planets burned, and Jace, against every instinct, found himself standing beside an empress at the center of it all, ending the choice. The war reached its crescendo above the fractured moon of Erythis. Serena's loyal fleet clashed with the rebels in a battle that shook the heavens. Jace, far from the front lines, worked frantically in the engineering decks of the flagship, keeping shields online, patching systems as plasma fire rained down. But fate thrust him forward again. A boarding party stormed the command deck, rebels intent on killing the Empress themselves. Jace, armed only with a plasma cutter, stood between them and Serena long enough for her guards to arrive. He fought clumsily, desperately, but he fought. Afterward, bloodied and shaking, he expected nothing but a reprimand. Instead, Serena approached him in the aftermath, her hand warm against his jaw. You think yourself small, Jace called her, she whispered. But you are not. You stood between me and death twice now. You have no throne, no fleet, no armies, and yet you are braver than those who claim crowns. The battle ended with Serena victorious. The rebellion was crushed. The Empress stood unchallenged, her power restored. When the celebrations rang across the empire, Serena sought Jace one final time. You saved me as an engineer, thinking me only a warrior. Now you know I am Empress. So I ask you, will you remain by my side, not as servant, but as companion? Jace hesitated, staring out at the stars beyond the palace spires. He had never dreamed of palaces or crowns. Yet he thought of her voice in the darkness, her trust, the bond forged not in courts, but in a ruined outpost. I'll stay, he said at last. Not for the Empress. For Serena. Her smile was radiant, a rare glimpse of the woman behind the throne. And so Jace Calder, ordinary engineer, found himself walking into legend, not because he sought glory, but because he treated an empress as a person first.